Alrighty, so we are midway through week 8 of the NFL season. It is before Thursday night football between the Chargers and the Vikings. For y'all today, I have my QB, tight end, tiers, and rankings for just that week 8. We're going to hop right into my QB tiers and rankings without any further ado. QB1, I do have Jalen Hurts going up against the New York Giants. The Giants right now are bottom 10 in passing yards, bottom 10 in rushing yards allowed to all offenses for the past, 7 weeks now. They've been on bye yet? 7 weeks? Yeah. Jalen Hurts is going to be able to get there through passing, through rushing, kind of like what I said before in my other videos where I do tiers and rankings. I don't talk too much about like the top 5 or like the high end QBs because realistically they're going to finish as top 5 guys pretty much every single week. At QB2, and you could swap these guys out, it is Patrick Mahomes going up against the Washington Commanders. No Jayden Daniels means the game probably won't be quite as high scoring, but Marcus Mariota should be able to get there decently enough on the week. The biggest thing too about this game is that obviously the Commanders defense is not that great. They're not stopping the run. They're not stopping the pass. So the play action pass will be there. The deep pass will be there. Like, I do think that if Patrick Mahomes and like the Kansas City Chiefs wanted to drop 40 points on the heads of the Commanders, it wouldn't be anything that crazy. On the year, I believe that he is number 1 overall at the QB spot. Number 3, I do have Josh Allen going up against the Panthers. This game could actually be a lot higher scoring than people are predicting. The Bills run defense is horrible. We know Rico Dowdle popped off for 2 out of 3 weeks now. Bryce Young has been able to pass the football decently well enough. It really doesn't matter if it's him or Andy Dalton. Either way, they're going to be able to pass the ball effectively, run the ball effectively. Means it could be a higher scoring game. Josh Allen is going to eventually unleash the beast. I know at some point in time he's going to start running more, passing more, especially if they start losing more and more games. At QB4, I do have Lamar Jackson going up against the Bears. It is Lamar's first game back, so I do want to move him down a little bit in my weekly rankings. I'm obviously not too worried about the Bears defense. They're getting passed all over, ran all over. I do think it's potentially could be a higher scoring game. Baltimore's defense is not very good. It's kind of like what we saw at the beginning of last season where Lamar was just popping off every week because his defense could not stop the run, stop the pass, and was giving up a lot of points all over the place. Should be a high-scoring game. Lamar's going to be able to get there on the ground, through the air, and they're going to dominate this matchup against the Bears. At QB5, I have Baker Mayfield going up against Saints. Interdivisional, like rivalry game, quote-unquote. I know that Baker's going to be without some of his weapons, but I'm not too worried about it. The Saints defense is not that great. They're going to get more and more banged up as the season goes along, so I think we're going to see a lesser version of what the Saints defense looked like in week 1, week 2, and week 3. Obviously, Baker knows he has to win this football game against a lesser divisional opponent. I don't think this game will be quite as high scoring, only because the lack of the weapons with Mike Evans being out probably for the rest of the season, and we don't know when Chris Godwin's coming back. I do think Cade Otton's able to step up, and Mecca Ibuka's already been fantastic, and I think Tez Johnson will take another step up this week. QB6, and again, you could swap him and Baker out, and I wouldn't be that upset about it. It is Dak Prescott going up against the Broncos. They're a top 3, top 2, top 1 offensive unit on the season, like passing, running, scoring. Everything is going in the favor of the Dallas Cowboys offense. Their defense cannot stop anybody from scoring, so out of all the games where Bo Nix has not looked that great, this is probably a get-right game for Bo Nix and this offense for the Denver Broncos. So what that ends up setting up is a high-scoring game. Dak Prescott's going to go out there, throw the ball pretty much all over the field. I think him, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson all have fantastic weeks, and Javonte Williams is probably able to get there as well. At QB7, I do have Daniel Jones. I've had him higher later in the past few weeks. The biggest issue, though, is this Titans offense cannot score any points, so I don't know how many points Daniel Jones is going to have to score. I don't know if Daniel Jones plays in the fourth quarter. All of these things kind of set it up where he'll get a lot of work done in the first 3 quarters, but it wouldn't shock me if it's 28 to 10 or 28 to 7 and something really bad, and they're like, okay, Danny, like, you're done, buddy, thanks for playing, we appreciate you, you maybe rushed a touchdown, threw a touchdown. If it was against an opponent that could actually score points against this not so great Indianapolis Colts defense, I would have him a lot higher, more as like QB6, QB5, QB4. At QB8, I do have Bo Nix going up against, ironically enough, Dallas Cowboys. The flip side of the Dak Prescott matchup. Should be a high scoring game. Everything I said for Dak applies to Bo. This defense for the Dallas Cowboys cannot stop the run, cannot stop the pass. They're giving up a ton of points. The good news, though, is for Bo is that Dallas can score points. So it should be a high scoring game. Bo should be able to get there on the ground, through the air. I'm not really caring about the 40-point week in week 7. Like, that's an anomaly for me. At QB9, I have him back up. And if you watch my rankings videos week over week over week, you'll see up, down, side, side. All these people will be moving around. I do not follow everybody else's consensus rankings because they are crap. I have Jordan Love here at QB9 going up against the Steelers. I do think this matchup could potentially be higher scoring. We just saw what Joe Flacco was able to do against them in week 7. Pittsburgh's defense hasn't been anything too great. Secondary's not that great. Can't really stop the run that effectively. Like, their defense really isn't like that dominant as they should be this year in 2025. This Packers offense can get it done. They're going up against a not great defense. Like, the good news again, flip side, We know that Aaron Rodgers can score points as well, so this game should be a higher scoring game on the week. Maybe not the highest of scoring games, but it should be a higher scoring game. Should be a decent offensive battle. I don't think either one of these defenses are going to be able to dominate the other team's offense, so a good game for Jordan Love is what I see in store for week 8. At QB 10, and this is the lowest I've had him in a long time. Everybody else didn't have him as high as I had him for the past handful of weeks, or I guess I shouldn't say the last few weeks, the weeks before the weeks, because it was before everybody else was ranking him as a top 5 guy every week. I do have Drake May at number 10. It is a lot lower than I've had him. He's going up against the Browns. The Browns are not letting you run the football that effectively. They're not letting you pass the football that great. They're not horrible, but they're not great either. It's one of those weird things where if they stop the run, I do think this hurts Drake May. Patriots this season have been playing a lot of under center, RPO, play action, that kind of stuff. So I don't really think it's going to be that effective against the Browns. The other big issue I have, aside from the fact the defense is really good, has nothing really to do with Drake May, in my personal opinion. The defense is really good, though. They're not letting you score points. Aside from that, the Browns can't score. So when the Browns can't score, it's kind of like Danny Dimes. I have to move Daniel Jones down because of the fact that the team that he's playing against, they can't score. Same thing. Browns can't score. Dylan Gabriel isn't that good. The offense isn't that great. Like David Njoku's banged up. Like they can't score points, can't move the ball down the field. So what happens when it's 21-0 or 21-3 or 27-7 in the fourth quarter? They're going to pull Drake May, keep him healthy. At QB 11, I do have Caleb Williams going up against the Ravens. You could arguably move Caleb Williams up a couple of spots because of him going up against Lamar Jackson. Really bad defense for the Ravens the past handful of weeks and pretty much the entire season so far. Should be a higher scoring game because good news for Caleb, his defense, kind of like Dax, isn't that great. I don't think they're going to be able to run the football as effectively as they have for the past couple of weeks with DeAndre Swift. So I think it's going to put more weight on Caleb Williams' shoulders. He's going to easily finish as a low-end QB1 in week 8. At QB 12, I do have Jackson Dart going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. This game could be higher scoring, like I said earlier with Jalen Hurts. The Giants can score points. Their defense isn't that great. The Eagles can score points. So like all this stuff kind of works out to being a higher scoring game. Jackson Dart is running for touchdowns, throwing the football to absolutely nobody. Easily going to be a QB1 probably almost every single week going forward, especially in 10-man and 12-man leagues. I know I have him a little bit lower, but that's because like the Eagles defense has had like flashes. So if they have a good flash this week, he may not finish like a middling to a high-end QB1. He might finish more of a lower-end QB1. Maybe he finishes like QB 13, 14, 15, but I want to have him here as somebody you should start even against the Eagles defense in week 8. Okay, so the last handful of guys I'm going to run through real fast because I don't want to talk about them too much because for, 10-man leagues, 8-man leagues, like you don't care anymore. These are more for like 12-man and Superflex leagues. So at QB 13, it's Joe Flacco going up against Jets. Jets defense not that great. Probably not the high scoring of a game, but Joe Flacco, this offense for the Bengals is fantastic. QB 14, Justin Herbert going against the Vikings. At QB 15, I have him a lot higher than I've had him in like 4 weeks, something like that. It is Bryce Young going up against the Bills. Flip side of the Josh Allen matchup. Bryce Young should be able to get there pretty effectively. Higher scoring game in my opinion. At QB 16, it is Aaron Rodgers. Flip side of the Jordan Love matchup. Going up against the Packers. Packers defense hit and miss every single week. Probably won't be that effective this week because they haven't really been that effective on the season. Potentially higher scoring game. Aaron Rodgers, of that, he's going to be able to read the defense, going to be able to get away from pressure. Like he should be set up to smash enough so to be viable again in deeper and larger leagues and Superflex leagues for week 8. Alrighty, so there was my QB tiers and rankings for week 8. And without further ado, we're going to hop right into my tight end tiers and rankings for week 8 as well. Alrighty, so at tight end 1, I do have Tyler Warren going up against Tennessee Titans. Potentially lower scoring game, like I said, for Danny Dimes. Biggest thing though, Tyler Warren is like the most dominant guy. He's lining up all over the field. Like, I don't know, he's like a Brock Bowers from like 2024, except he's moving all over and he's on a much better offense. Love Tyler Warren, top 3, top 4 guy every single week, as long as he's not on a bye week. At tight end 2, I do have Dallas Goedert going up against the Giants, potentially higher scoring game. When it comes to Dallas Goedert, he probably has the most target equity of any tight end aside from Trey McBride on their football team. A lot of touchdown equity, guys getting schemed up touches in the end zone. Obviously, in week 7, there was a lot more deep down the field passes, so he wasn't quite as involved. I do think that this offense for the Eagles regresses a little bit in week 8 against a lackluster Giants defense, sets it up where Dallas Goedert is going to get schemed up touches and red zone opportunities, touchdown opportunities in week 8. At tight end 3, I do have Jake Ferguson going up against the Broncos. Very high dominant tight end in fantasy football and in the real NFL. Was saved last week by a couple of touchdowns, but I do think in this football game against the Broncos, Dak's going to have to move the football all over the field and to a lot of people. It can't just be CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. I think you're going to see Jake Ferguson get a decent amount of targets and touches this week. Probably has some touchdown equity, like red zone equity in week 8. Top 5 guy, easy peasy for this coming week. At tight end 4, I have Tucker Kraft going up against the Steelers. Higher scoring game, like number 1, number 2 target earner for the football team, for the Packers. He's probably their best player out there. You could argue it's Matthew Golden. You can argue it's Romeo Doubs. You can argue it's Jayden Reed. I would argue the most dynamic and versatile player on this offense, aside from Jordan Love, is going to end up being Tucker Kraft. He is fantastic. They're going to keep on getting him more involved. Just like I said last week, he's set for a bounce back week last week. Hopefully they keep that momentum going forward and what potentially be a higher scoring game in week 8. At tight end 5, I do have Travis Kelce going up against the Washington Commanders. Their defense is horrible. Their offense is going to be able to score some amount of points against this Chiefs defense, not letting you run the football. Good news is Marcus Mariota can pass the football all over the football field. I'm hoping that we end up seeing all the receivers back for the Commanders as well. Either way, Travis Kelce involved in this offense, a top 1, 2, 3 scoring offense in the NFL. He set up 2 smash again in week 8. At tight end 6, and it pains me to have to move him down like a tier, but because of what I saw last week, and I'm not sure how healthy he is coming off of his IR stint, he'll probably bounce back and smash this week and be like tight end 2, and I'll feel guilty, but it is George Kittle. He is a dominant tight end. He's coming back. I know we saw that he didn't do anything in week 7, but I think that's going to completely change in week 8. It is a dramatically harder matchup against the Texans this week. I think that sets it up where you're going to see a lot of targets funneling to George Kittle with like easy stuff over the middle of the field, kind of like check down stuff. He's going to get a lot of schemed up touches in week 8 because they are going to need him to pop off against a really good Texans secondary and Texans defense. At tight end 7, I do have Cade Otton going up against the Saints. Higher scoring game. Saints defense sucks. Potentially, like I said already, going to be missing a lot of wide receivers for the Bucs. So Cade Otton is going to have a repeat performance of week 7 in week 8 to make sure that the Bucs are viable to win this football game. At tight end 8, I do have Theo Johnson for the New York Giants going up against the Eagles. Kind of said it last week, and I was right. Like, he was set to bounce back. He was set to have a much better week. It's going to be the number 2 and worst case scenario, number 3 target earner for this Giants offense. Good news is Jackson Dart has looked fantastic. He's very versatile, running the football, passing the football. Theo Johnson should be set up to be like a middling to low end tight end 1 pretty much every single week going forward, unless they're going up against like a crazy good defensive matchup. But aside from that, he should be in a smash spot in week 8. At tight end 9, Dalton Kincaid going up against the Panthers. Dalton Kincaid is really like touchdown dependent. Targets can go all over the football field. Josh Allen is not like honing in on one single person. This game should be higher scoring, so he could get a touchdown. If he doesn't get a touchdown and James Cook pops off because the Panthers, can't stop the run for whatever reason, or Josh Allen's running all over the football field, he may not be quite as involved because there is a litany of targets out there. He's still going to be a tight end 1 pretty much every single week because of how high scoring this Bills offense is and can be. So yeah, still somebody you're starting. Don't be mad if I have somebody who's like tight end 10 or tight end 11. Like, there's still somebody in larger leagues that you're starting. So like, they finish as tight end 2 and I'm wrong, then that's bad on me, but you still would have started him, so don't worry about it. So at tight end 10, Juwan Johnson going up against the Bucs. I think he's going to have to get more involved this week, because if the Bucs are able to score a lot of points and they're able to take Chris Olave out of this football game, I think it sets it up where Juwan Johnson is going to have to get some targets, has some touchdown equity, and has a bounce back week in week 8. At tight end 11, I do have Zach Ertz going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Potentially higher scoring game. We don't know if all the wide receivers are going to actually be there. Like I said, for Travis Kelce's portion, like, we think they're going to be back, so it could be a higher scoring game. If that happens, Zach Ertz is still in the mix to be a tight end 1. If the wide receivers aren't there, he's probably still in the mix to be a tight end 1, but it really is right here, like closer to the bottom of the barrel tight end 1s. 10-man, 12-man leagues, you probably should be starting Zach Ertz. I mean, you could swap him and Juwan Johnson. I wouldn't be mad about it. But yeah, either way, Zach Ertz, tight end 1 in week 8. At tight end 12, I do have Harold Fannin going up against the Patriots. Patriots aren't letting you run the football, so if they're going to try and move the football down the field for the Browns, they're going to have to throw it. Harold Fannin is going to probably be out there by himself. I don't think David Njoku plays. I don't even know if David Njoku will be on this football team in a couple of weeks. I think he might get traded away. Either way, Harold Fannin has flashed on tape. I think this will be another good week for him. Okay, ripping and roaring for the last handful of these guys real fast like I did for QBs. At tight end 13, Mark Andrews going up against the Bears. Potentially higher scoring game. I like that. And you're going to have Lamar Jackson back. At tight end 14, TJ Hawkinson going up against the Chargers. Potentially higher scoring game. We saw TJ Moore involved in week 7. He had a touchdown that was like overturned. That was ridiculous. Anyways, bottom of the barrel, like, you fringy tight end 1 on the week, like either one of those guys. At tight end 15, it is Kyle Pitts going up against the Dolphins. Kyle Pitts is really not going to be that viable as like a high end to a middling tight end 1 unless it's a game where the other team's offense can actually score a lot of points. points. Dolphins can't score a lot of points. Falcons defense has been really good, so I really don't know how effective he'll be. But because of all the bye weeks, he's still a semi-viable tight end to start in week 8. And at tight end 16, because of the quad injury for Mason Taylor, I did have to move him down a little bit. He's going up against the Bengals, though. Tyrod Taylor could be starting quarterback. Both of those things are smash, play me signals. But if you don't have one of these guys, they're not available. I'm sure Mason Taylor was out there or might still be out there in your league. You should feel semi-comfortable as long as he's healthy and able to play, to pick him up and potentially play him, especially in larger leagues in week 8. Alrighty, so there are my QB and tight end tiers and rankings for week 8. Hopefully this video helps you get just a little bit closer to winning your fantasy football championship in 2025. If you guys are looking to potentially pick somebody up off the waiver wire and you're in deeper leagues specifically, I'll have a video down here for you below that's going to have people on there that are potentially breakout candidates and people that could actually be viable in the back half of the season, specifically for bigger leagues though. And if you're streaming DST and you don't have the Vikings or the Chargers as somebody you're trying to stream this week, I will have that video up here somewhere as well. I think I have some really good viable options that could absolutely dominate and be high-end DST streaming options in week 8. Hopefully I'll see you guys again. No, hopefully you guys will see me again real soon. And until then, y'all have a blessed day.